Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another live stream, to another show. Hope you guys are ready to rock and roll. Today, we're going to be talking about a very important subject. We're going to be talking about moving to Mexico the right way. Or just moving to Mexico. I'm going to be sharing with you guys my story as to how I did it, how I was able to make it out here. Over 7 years ago when I came out here with not much left to my name. And, we're going to be sharing the story about how I did it, how others have done it, and so on and so forth. And, again, hopefully, this video will be very helpful and useful to you guys out there that are also looking into moving to Mexico. And, again, I apologize, as we're getting started here, we're having a few technical hiccups before we started, but I think we got everything squared away. So welcome in, and shout out to you out there in the audience that has been waiting patiently before we got started. So today's video, because I always kind of like to show something in the background. Today's video is a video that I did a few years ago when I was celebrating, I think, 5 years of living here, and I was basically showing you guys a lot of my experience, my first days out here, a lot of the footage that you're seeing, since the beginning of the live stream here, all these videos, like that video, everything you're seeing right now, this was shot 7 years ago, and a lot of things have changed, not just here in Mexico, in Merida, but in the world, including in your own lives and everything. And as you guys can see there, these are my first and early days when I first came out here. And some of you guys know my story, some of you guys don't know my story. We're gonna talk a little bit about that. And again, because the thing is like, I feel like in today's world, I guess, in today's space, when it comes to like YouTube, I'm moving, Mexico content, Mexico videos, there's a lot of information out there, and a lot of it is contradicting in many aspects. And for me, every time that I hear, because I hear it all the time, I'm sure you guys hear it too, hey, you got to move to Mexico the right way. I always chuckle a little bit, but sometimes, a lot of times I get a little upset, when I hear that, because to me it's like, what is the right way? What do you mean, the right way? What exactly does that mean? Is it only that a certain individual or certain if you're of a certain income or of a certain background, of a certain way, only certain people can move to Mexico? Only certain people are allowed the privilege of coming to this amazing and beautiful country? And you already know my answer. My answer is no. I came out here with literally nothing. I mean, well, not literally nothing. I did come out here with a little something. I came out here with $1,500 left to my name. All right. Honestly, as I was in, by the way, this is the first place I ever stayed at. You're looking at it in the background there. The first ever, that was my Airbnb that I was staying at for about a month, before I went on ahead and, got my, the apartment that you're also going to see, the first apartment that I lived in for years up until I got married to my wife, which again, you saw earlier in the show. And then everything, just changed. And so, when I came out here originally, when I first moved out here originally, I just came out here with, again, just $1,500 left to my name. I originally started with like around 2,500, but or a little bit more than that. But where did that money go? Well, my plane ticket, my one-way plane ticket, okay? Meaning, one-way shot, just get me out to Merida, Yucatan. And then the Airbnb. I remember, I remember how much the Airbnb cost me for a month back then, over 7 years ago. It was like around, I think, $400 something for the month, which obviously was expensive, considering, what I ended up renting afterwards. Because when I, once I left there and I was able to get my own place, I was paying 3,000 pesos, which is the equivalent of like around $150, $200, depending on the exchange rate. And I just came out here again with just a few bucks left to my name, a hope and a prayer. I did have a lot of tools in my utility belt at the time, meaning I spoke fluent Spanish because, again, my name is Jose Arteaga. I was born and raised in Miami. Both my parents were Cuban, all that jazz. So, I not only did I grow up in a Latino culture and a Hispanic culture, but I also grew up speaking Spanish. That was my first language. I did not learn English until later on when I was in elementary school, and I learned it there and stuff like that. And when I came out here, some of you guys know my full story. Some of you guys don't know my complete story. But I came out here basically escaping the heck hole. I'm trying to keep it PG here in this, on this channel. That was my life and many lives, out there in the USA. And, when I came out here, like I said, I was just trying to escape, what was basically waiting for me over there in the USA, which was living out of my car or living on the street of LA. Okay. Because that's where I was living at the time. I was in Los Angeles. And so, basically, I came out here because I just did not want to settle for that. And I figured, you know what, if I'm going to be starving, if I'm going to be going through troubles, just getting back on my feet after losing everything, after going through all the things that I went through, I'd rather just do it somewhere else. You know what I mean? I've already tried, many times in the USA, and I had successes and I had failures, just like some of you guys out there. And at that point, my failures, my failure, at the time was so bad that it was like, again, living out of my car, right on the verge of living on the street. And to me, when I was born, as I was, growing up in the USA, I am about to turn 44 years old. So I was born in 81. So I grew up in the 80s and 90s. And as I was growing up and, entering the workforce in the late 90s, early 2000s, it was great because the reality is that like there were plenty of jobs, plenty of again, even as I started out as a chef and a cook, not making much money. By the way, this is the first place that I rented. I lived in this place for years before I moved to the other house after I got married. But anyways, it was always one of those things that, it was a very hard life, the life that I chose of being a cook, being a chef, all that stuff. But it at least offered me the freedom of, again, doing something that I loved, doing something on my own terms. And, many times, if I had a crappy job or I had a crappy situation at work, I could just leave and just go to another job. And I got it was high paying for the most part because, as the years went on, I was getting paid more and more. And the economy was still good. It wasn't up until like 2007, 2008, when most of us out there lost a lot. Some of us recovered, some of us didn't. But, back then I had, I was already starting my own little business and catering. I was already doing my own little thing out there. But when the 2007, 2008 thing, hit, the economic crash, basically, and not only did I lose everything, but I had to go back into the workforce as an employee. But not just that, I was also, whatchamacallit, like, I was hit in the face with the reality of everything is just more expensive, and the pay was nothing like what I used to get paid. I remember when I first was looking for jobs after the 2007, 2008 debacle, that my first job ever, 1999, 2000, give or take, I was making like $12 an hour, which was pretty good back then. But then what happened was that when after the 2007 or 8 crash, not only were everything was more expensive, okay, life was more expensive, all that stuff, but then I couldn't even get a $12 an hour job. All the jobs that were out there were, under $10, under $12 an hour. It was like 11, 10, 9, in some cases. And eventually, I had to bite the bullet, and instead of just working one job or working 2 jobs, like I used to, but just to earn or save money for whatever, now out of survival, I had no other choice but to work multiple jobs. And still, I couldn't get back on my feet. And so many years passed, me trying to just, again, pick it back up in Miami, because that's where I was born and raised. Thank you. I was just reading some comments here. I just want to make sure the audio. Thank you, Delfino. for the update on that. Thank God that everything's coming in clear. But anyway, so what happened was that like eventually around 2013, 2012, 2013, I think it was 2012, I made the executive decision that I was like, all right, I got to get out of Miami. Miami is just getting more and more expensive. The jobs are getting worse and worse. Florida's Florida, so there was no worker rights per se. There was no what is it, like any hope on the horizon as to I was going to get paid more, none of that stuff. So I started to look around, and I decided, okay, where am I going to move to? Where am I going to go? And so I decided to go to Seattle. I'm giving you the short version, okay? I had a few places on my radar, but I ended up deciding to go to Seattle. Why? Well, because back then, Seattle was one of the highest paying cities out there. And for me, I was like, okay, at this point, you know what I mean? Like, that's it. I put many, many years, over a decade, 15 plus years, into cooking. And I'm not gonna keep getting paid the $10 an hour. This is just insane to me, when I was getting paid $15 an hour not that long ago. So I decided, all right, I'm gonna move to Seattle. And immediately, as soon as I got to Seattle, I was able to land on my feet because, well, I came from the East Coast, and I had a lot of experience and knowledge when it came to the restaurant industry. A lot of things that people over there in Seattle just had no clue about. Because I was out in the trenches, I was playing in the major leagues out there, and so I came to Seattle, and for me it was just like, oh, I'm back in the farm system here, kind of like in the minor leagues. But I was getting paid, again, right off the bat, I was already getting paid like $15 an hour. And I was like, oh man, this is awesome. And then the cost of living was pretty similar to what it was in Miami. So I was like, oh, this is great. And so I basically was able to, lift myself up and make it again, and started making really good money, and everything was wonderful and great. And eventually I found my way out of the restaurant industry, and I found myself in, I started doing business consulting. I started using my other skills in order to make money. And that's when I really started to take off. And eventually I found myself into, hey, I'm gonna start making YouTube videos. And back then, when I started making YouTube videos, it was just for fun. It was just a little hobby. Little did I know that hobby would turn into what I'm doing now. Now, eventually I left Seattle, and I had my troubles, as you guys, some of you guys know, some of you guys don't know. As I was traveling the country, I drove through the wrong part of Texas, and they basically, I got stopped by some police officers, and, they literally kidnapped me. I'm sorry. They arrested me. For what? For resisting arrest. Don't get me started. There's a whole other story for another day. In fact, if you guys want to know more about my past, in more detail, I encourage you guys to go check out my other channel, Jose Unleashed. We go live over there every Thursday. So whenever I'm done here, we're gonna go live over there. But again, you can just go here to the live tab, okay, and just look through the videos there, and you'll find, again, my complicated relationship with authority. Where is it? Where's the video that I did recently? Oh, there it is. See, look, getting arrested for resisting arrest. See, all the way to the top left. All right, so I'm an open book, all right? So all my stuff is out there, and you guys can check it out on your own time. Hold on a second. Gizmo, you want to go out? We got Gizmo here. He's undecided whether he wants to stay here with me or go out. So anyways, we're going to be talking about some fun stuff today. So hopefully I'll see you guys over there. And we can have some more fun. But anyways, as I was saying, I found myself out here in Mexico, all right? Simply because, like I said, as all these, all this, how do I like to say it? Like all this bad luck, I guess, happened to me. Again, I don't consider anything bad luck, because everything does happen for a reason, and I'm thankful I got arrested, and everything happened to me there, because if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't have gone through all the troubles that I went through, and again started to build up basically what you're looking at now, which is this YouTube channel, because I started to really take YouTube seriously after that, and after that arrest, which was in 2017, I believe. And I was living in LA, and I basically started doing videos there, talking about all kinds of topics similar to what I talk about on Unleashed or whatever. And then eventually, just things kept getting more and more difficult for me in LA. I mean, like for everybody out there, meaning the cost of living kept going up. The jobs, no matter how much they paid, was not enough. And it was just one thing after another. And I just had to choose, what am I going to do? Am I going to continue spiraling downwards? Not because of anything I did wrong. I was out there working and hustling and doing everything I could to make it happen. But I said, you know what? I'm not going to put all these efforts into something that is not going to really bring me any kind of, fruits to my labor, So that's when I made the other executive decision. Okay, I'm going to leave the USA and move to Mérida, Yucatan. Okay, and how did I choose Mérida? I had no idea about anything Mexico related. I literally put my finger on the map and I landed here. It's a little more long story, complicated than that, but this is how I just kind of landed here. Now this is going now to, let's just transition into the reason I'm doing this video, which is the right way to move to Mexico. So when I hear that, every time I hear that from other channels or other people out there, oh, you got to do it the right way. I mean, what is the right way? You know what I mean? What exactly does that even mean? For me, it does have a meaning, and that meaning is simply that, when you're leaving, you're moving, to another country, all right? You gotta what is the exact reason that you're moving? That is, what is the right way or the wrong way. So in my case, okay, I was looking for freedom. I was looking for a better quality of life. I was looking for a place where I can finally, again, dedicate the time and effort that I wanted to, again, make YouTube videos. In this case, everybody has something that they want to do. And so for me, that was the original reasons why I came out here. Now, as soon as I landed out here in Mérida and I was bombarded, with the constant, culture shock and the constant, just living out here, think like what you're looking at right now. All this was brand new to me, but anyways, I would be just like David there. Shout out to David, my father from another mother. Anyways, shout out to David there. That was me. That was me at the first few days, the first few months, whatever, when I was in the little tienditas, in the little grocery store, whatever, and just trying to figure everything out. And it was all an experience. It was all fun. It was all a journey. It was amazing. And so obviously I came out here for certain reasons. And immediately after landing here, I was like, oh, wait a minute. There's even more reasons, why I want to be here. So then eventually, I made the concerted effort that, okay, I want to stay here. I want to really be here. And that's when I started to figure out and started to take seriously, okay, maybe I should get my residency. I got to figure out how to get residency. I got to figure out how to really, make a living. I got to figure out a way to, sustain myself and, integrate myself as best as possible. The integration just came naturally, really, at least for me. Because, well, I couldn't afford, to go to all these fancy places and afford a fancy lifestyle. I came out here with not much. And so with that said, I had no choice. I had to literally, put my feet into the fire. And, again, I'm glad I did. And I'm glad that was the only choice that I really had to, to take on, when I came out here. But for me, it was nothing new because I've already been through this rodeo multiple times, as you guys been listening the last few minutes here. I told you everything from Miami to here, short version. But it wasn't anything new to me. Survival was not new to me. But then when I came out here, and the survival was fun. The survival was a journey. The survival was, all this stuff is like, oh man, this is amazing. And so obviously, when I first came out here, I came out here on a tourist visa. And that's it. I wasn't thinking about getting residency. I wasn't thinking any of these things. I didn't have barely enough money to get out here, let alone thinking about that far into the future. So I just rolled with the punches. And so again, when I got here, 6 months after I got here, my 180-day visa expired. And, I started to freak out, just like any other American, right? Because, again, we are bombarded back in our own home countries. You got to do things the right way. Hold on a second. I got to let Gizmo out here. Sorry about that. Anyway, so I got to do things. I got to do things the right way. I don't want to get deported. I don't want to get in trouble. I don't want any bad things to happen. But as I lived here, as I was again. I met Christian. That's my wife. That's what you're looking at right there. Again, as I was integrating even more and more into daily life out here, I realized, oh, wait a minute, I'm in Mexico. I don't really got nothing to worry about. I'm not going to get deported. I'm not going to get in trouble as long as I'm not doing anything I shouldn't be doing, and so on and so forth. And again, as time went on, I realized, that I was, in a place that was a lot more similar to where I was raised, which was Miami, Florida. Miami, Florida is also, in a sense, kind of like Mexico, where, rules and regulations and laws and all these things are, more like a suggestion and only implemented in certain occasions and certain moments. And it's just a different vibe as opposed to when I was living in other parts of the USA, where everybody is just more strict with everything. Again, not just, the authority figures and the way life is lived, but again, the people that live there. A lot of you guys, you have this certain mentality of how life is lived out there. It's, to no fault of anybody. It's just the way that we were, kind of like raised or in the USA or Canada or whatever. We got to follow the rules. Anyone that doesn't follow the herd, that doesn't follow what everybody's doing, well, you're gonna pay for it in one shape, form, or another. You got to do it the right way. You got to make sure you pay your taxes. You got to make sure you do this. You got to make sure you do all these things. But again, being born and raised in Miami, I already knew how things really worked, meaning that, when it comes to paying taxes, again, most of us have this conversation all the time when it comes to like something like paying taxes. Everybody does their taxes in the USA, but why is it that certain groups, certain people that have money or certain, knowledge of the tax code, they end up paying nothing legally? And then people that end up, doing everything the right way, again, they never are able to even advance in life because, well, they're paying so much in taxes. And again, it's just because they just follow the herd and don't, do their homework. Again, it's things that we were talking about in last week's live stream. Okay. And so it's the same thing, when moving to Mexico. There are many ways, there are many options, when it comes to not just moving out here, living out here, but getting everything done, including your residency, including, how you're going to earn some income, the taxes, all these things, everything. All right. It's funny when I hear all the time, again, other channels are like, okay, when you move to Mexico, you got to make sure you got to get your RFC and you got to pay your taxes and you got to this, and you got to, and it's like, you don't even have to pay taxes. You know what I mean? Have you even looked at the laws in Mexico? Most Mexicans don't even pay taxes, and I could go on and on. This is one thing. When it comes to immigration, same thing. You know what I mean? Like, again, if you keep a certain low profile, like I did, well, you can live out here indefinitely without even, getting your residency. All right. In fact, many Americans in other parts of Mexico, like especially in the Baja region, in those regions, that are really close to, the north, the north of Mexico, on the border between Mexico and the USA, there's many Americans that live on the other side of the border in Mexico. Again, where some people might even say, oh, they're doing it the wrong way. They're not, they're not residents. They're not this, they're not that. And it's like, well, again, what does that even mean? So, for me, coming from a different background and the way I was raised and where I was raised in the USA, basically helped me when I moved out here because, well, I already knew how things kind of flowed. And it was easy for me to just, take, take hold of the culture out here and how things are done and how, the rules and the laws and the regulations and all this stuff really, how all that really works out here, how that's like, implemented out here. So, for me, again, what was my reason for leaving the USA? Well, again, I've already mentioned it. I wanted a better quality of life. I wanted my freedom. I wanted, a lot of things that a lot of you guys want. All right. And, I always get upset when I hear other channels, they're basically discouraging many people out there from moving out here simply because, well, they don't make enough money or simply because, they are not a certain, what is it called? Like of a certain income, not income level, but what's the word I'm looking for? Of a certain, anyways, cultural thing, anyways, whatever. But that's the thing, like the idea of, that only certain people can move out here. Only, it's only available for, XYZ people that follow the rules to the T. That doesn't, make any sense, because again, let's not forget that, back many years ago, again, not many years ago, just a year ago, but basically during the last administration in the USA, we all of us know that a lot of immigrants, were coming into the USA. Well, where are those immigrants? Where were they coming from? Well, they were coming from Central and South America. But again, they're like, Jose, there was a lot of people coming from China and coming from all these other countries, right? Again, I don't want to get too, deep into this, but long story short, a lot of them, basically how it worked is that they would land somewhere like in the, Darien Gap area, which is around Panama, Colombia area. And basically they would just walk their way all the way from down there, all the way up through, Central America, through Mexico, and eventually got to the US border. But many of those people, as they were coming through Mexico, Mexico's a big country. It's like, imagine having to cross, the USA from New York to California on foot. All right. So, for a lot of people, they just didn't make it all the way. And a lot of people, again, they just decided, hey, you know what? I might as well just stay here in Mexico. Why continue going up? And so, and during those times that, the immigration situation was going on in the USA, well, guess what? It was also going on here. And so Mexico had a humongous monstrosity of an influx of immigration that they'd never seen before. It wasn't just gringos like you and me, all right? It was a bunch of immigrants from all over the world that basically settled here in Mexico as well. And did they do it the right way? No, according to, what you hear on YouTube, no, they did everything the wrong way. But was it the wrong way? Again, according to who? According to who is, the right way, the wrong way, the whatever. So a lot of these immigrants, depending on the country they came from, depended on how they were able to establish themselves, get their residency, get asylum, whatever it is, and so on and so forth. So, that was something that, hold on a second, huh? Oh, wow. Oh, shout out to somebody out there. Oh, no, never mind. Forget it. Yeah, sorry. No, I thought somebody left me a PayPal super chat, but no, somebody was paying me for for a consultation. My apologies there. All right, anyways. But anyway, shout out to everyone out there that helps support the show. You guys are the real superheroes out there. Thank you so much. Again, we got Lambo out there now. He's on the limb. Anyways. We got to get him to the doctor, right? Poor guy, he's a quadriplegic now, Anywho's. All right, that's another story for another day. We're not talking about Lambo right now. Where were we? What was I saying? Oh, yeah, the right way, the wrong way. So, the reality is that, who's the one that's saying, what is the right way, the wrong way, the whatever. And so that's the thing, of course, if you have, a certain amount of income, you're privileged, because you have a better lifestyle, more resources to your name or to you or whatever available to you. Well, then of course, it's you're going to be able to really do it the right way. But what about everybody else? Everybody else is, all of a sudden chopped meat, chopped liver, no, of course not. Everybody out there, doesn't matter who you are, you have the right, okay, to, get a better life, find a better life for you if that's what you choose to do. And so this is what I talk about here on this channel. That's why I emphasize more than anything else is like, what is really the reason you're moving out here? That's it. That's the right reason, per se, not anything else. A lot of people are just moving out here to save a few bucks. Well, that's not the right reason. Again, you'll find out eventually as, again, you move out here just to save a few bucks, you realize very quickly it's going to be just as expensive or more expensive, and you end up leaving and going back to where you came from. So you didn't move out here for the right way. You didn't move out here the right way. But anyone else, that's really like, again, for example, a lot of you guys out there in the audience, you say it all the time, you guys leave it in the comments, you guys leave it in the, when you're talking to me, you basically say, hey, I'm moving to Mexico because I want to integrate into the society. I want to be able to, have, go to that festival there and have fun and not be bothered by that dog that's walking around, maybe give him a snack. You get what I'm saying? Like that snack or whatever, what I'm saying? Like you're out here, you're moving for the right reasons, for the cultural immersion, for higher quality of life, so you can work, in peace. You can again, contribute to society out here, and so on and so forth. And so, the reality is that that's the way I look at it. Those individuals out there, a lot of you guys out there that are looking for that, as the reason as to why you want to leave the USA or Canada or whatever and move to Mexico. Well, yeah, you know what I mean? Like, you're more than welcome out here. Every Mexican is, going to welcome you. You know what I mean? It's as simple as that. As long as you're not out here, being a jerk or an asshole, or whatever, you know what I mean? Then you'll be fine. You got nothing really to worry about. In fact, you'll see more. I got a video coming up on Sunday. I think you guys will enjoy talking about some serious matters, but it's a walk and talk, all right? So for those of you guys that like those videos, but you're gonna see as I was walking around, how many people were so nice and so welcoming and so genuine, and that, again, that's why when I hear all these, all this propaganda, kind of saying the opposite, I get upset as well, because it's like, that's not really what life is like out here. You can see it in my videos all the time. People are amazing out here. So, with that said, again, why is it that, moving to Mexico is only restricted, to a certain group of people that have a lot of resources or money or whatever it is? It's not like that at all. The reality is that, many of you guys out there find yourself now in the position that you're the immigrant. Okay? Literally, what do I mean by the immigrant? Well, now you're coming out here, and now you got to figure out how you're going to survive, okay, and take on, this huge undertaking of moving to a new country, getting, your residency, establishing yourself, maybe getting a job, whether it's locally or, some other kind of work or whatever it is. And you're trying to integrate, and you're trying to move into Mexico like immigrants moving into the USA. You're now the immigrant moving here. Not everybody is going to be retired, and have a fat pension when they come out here. In fact, some of you guys that are retired, you are, again, basically being told by so many channels out there and so many people that you cannot move to Mexico because you don't make enough money. So tough cookies. It's like, no, that's not the reality of it at all. That's not how it works. You know what I mean? Again, this is why I spend so much time talking about these subjects, because the reality is that, again, like we were talking about immigration not that long ago, a few weeks ago, I mentioned the fact that, which some of you guys already know, that when you're going to go and get your residency through the consulate, it's really going to depend on many factors, as to whether you're going to get it or not, and whether you're going to get temporary or permanent residency or none, and so on and so forth. And it's not only restricted by how much you make. Again, I've interviewed plenty of people. I got them all on my channel. I've interviewed, again, not that long ago, I interviewed Mike Leone. That's my homie out there. Shout out to Mike. Anyways, and I interviewed him, and he's 30 years old. And when he got his residency, he was in his late 20s, and he was making more than enough to get permanent residency. And you know what they told him at the consulate? Like, no, listen, man, you're too young. You're too young for us to just give you that like that. So what we're gonna do is that, you qualify for residency for obvious reasons. You're living in Mexico, you're making enough money, so we're just going to give you a temporary residency. If you're still here 4 years from now, well, then you're going to automatically get your permanent. That's it, no questions asked. Now, if you are, older, basically, if you are retired, you are already, getting a Social Security, a pension, or whatever, well, then you don't have to meet those super duper high requirements, in order to get your residency at the consulate. Why? Well, because, they know fully well that you're not going to be making any more money. And now all of a sudden you are a retired individual that wants to move to Mexico and live in Mexico, and you want to spend all of your money here and contribute all of that economic power here to this country. Well, then, of course, they're going to make it easier for you, and that threshold of whatever it is right now, $4,000 something that you got to make and all these things, well, it's going to be a lot lower. Again, in many cases, people with only 1,500 monthly income or 2,000 monthly income dollars, that's enough. That's enough for you to get your residency. And again, you got to remember, let's say you're married and each one of you guys is getting 1,500 or 2,000. Well, then you can combine. I mean, there's many ways. They're just more lenient. They have a lot more power when it comes to, what's that noise? Oh, I think that's thunder. Oh man, that's that time of year, guys. Anyway, so long story short, the reality is that, there's many things. Look at there in my wallet. You see, I got my California license. I was driving around with a California license, an expired California license, and I even got stopped and got a traffic ticket once, and they didn't care that I even had an expired license. They didn't even care. They didn't even care I had a license per se. You know what I mean? They just needed some sort of ID. You know what I mean? Of course, get your license. Have a license. Blah blah blah. But it's all these little things where, if you're in the USA. Okay, and you have a license from California and you're driving through Texas, that's already they're already harassing you. Oh, how come you don't have, a Texas license? And bro, I don't even live here. I'm just driving through here. Okay, so they're that strict, right? Almost, ridiculously strict, right? Out here, it's a complete opposite. It's again, they don't, you okay? Yeah, you got a license, from wherever. Oh, and an Antarctica license that expired 10 years ago. Yeah, that's fine. Whatever. That kind of stuff. It's just we're different worlds out here, different things. So, that's a thing. And so for some people out there in the audience that are not as anal, you know what I mean, as others, well, then, you moving to Mexico is very easy. It's not that big of a deal. You understand how things are out here. They're just, go with the flow kind of thing. It's not as strict as you're used to in the USA. But for a lot of people in the USA that come from, again, they're more anal, because that's the way they were raised, or, where they come from, or whatever it is. And, they themselves might be that, or they were raised that way, or whatever it is, or they're used to that. Well, they come out here and then that's what they expect. And then they get upset with people like me and people like you guys that are basically, skating through life, skating through living out here in Mexico, without worrying about all these things, about getting an RFC, about getting this, about getting that. No, you just come out here and you live and you do your thing. I mean, most Mexicans don't even have a bank account, for crying out loud. You know what I mean? And it's just a different world and a different thing. And so for some of you guys out there, depending on where you grew up and how you grew up, well, it's so much easier, for you to make the transition out here and understand what I'm telling you. Basically, what I'm telling you is only, basically confirming a lot of the things that you guys already kind of knew about certain things. AKA, man, there's a lot of flies out here. It's a rainy season. Not flies, what you call it, mosquitoes and stuff. Oh my God, I got this thing to kill the... They're biting the hell out of me right now. Ay, ay, ay. Yeah, this is right now August. Is one of those the time of the year, man. It's like the end of summer. It's hot. I'm in the AC, so it's good. But we got the flies, the mosquitoes, just coming out of wherever, and it's just terrible. It's not for everybody, all right? Again, the prices you got to pay for living out here in paradise. It is what it is. But anywho's, and so that's the thing. I mean, the reality is that there is no real right way or wrong way, to do things out here. There are ways to do things out here. And, none is better than any other. How did I get my residency? I married my wife. That's it. That's it. You know what I mean? Simple as that. And some people can do that as a business transactions, or some people can do it as love. They're not as strict out here with that either. When I got married to her, to my wife, Christian, shout out to her. When we got married, basically, and I went to immigration, to get my papers, they didn't even let her in the building. It's like, they were basically like, well, why is she here? Is she getting her residency? No, she's my wife. She's Mexican. It's like, all right, well, get her out of here. We don't have enough room in here to for her. Just bring the paperwork, and that's it. Meaning your marriage certificate. All the papers that they were asking for, and that's it. I went in, did my thing. I was out. Boom. That's it. Got my residency card. We're good to go. That's it. When it came time to get my permanent residency, it was the same thing. In fact, by the time I went to get my permanent residency, they didn't care about my marriage. They didn't care about anything. They just wanted the information. It was even more basic, in order for me just to get my transfer from my temporary to permanent. What did they really want to know? Are you living in Mexico? That's a question. Basically, they ask. They're like, "Yeah, I'm living in Mexico." Yeah, that's it. You know what I mean? Just prove that you've been living here, and your temporary is not expired yet, and that's it. I got my permanent like that. No problem. Easy peasy. Lemon squeezy, right? And so that's the thing. It's so many little things like that. So many people worry. It's like, well, you know what? They ask me, it's like, well, what if I qualify for residency through financial solvency? What about my permanent residency? Are they going to ask me for financial solvency again? No, they're not. They're not. You know what I mean? They just, again, what they really might be asking, if anything, is that have you been living in Mexico? Have you been here? Or do you have some sort of footprint here in Mexico? You know what I mean? That's basically it. You know what I mean? Which, most people will have that. You know what I mean? Other than that, it's not really that big of a deal. So, Adrian De La Torre says, paradise is a state of mind. You are 1,000,000,000% correct. I totally agree with you. You know what I mean? For me, this is paradise, where I live, because I was, again, born and raised in Miami. And so out here, for me, in my opinion, it's milder weather than Florida, South Florida, where I'm from. And I get to enjoy the beach. Out here we got cenotes, we have so many other wonderful things. So for me, and the culture, I've told you guys, there's a Caribbean flavor here. There's Cuban influence out here. It's a lot more similar to what I'm used to in Florida, when I was born and raised out there. But for some people, not so much. Some people it's way too hot. Some people don't like the culture out here or the food or whatever it is. And so it was like, okay, great. Mexico has like 32 states. Or 30-something states. I don't know. Don't quote me on that. So, you just go somewhere else. There's plenty of places that you might enjoy more. I mean, whatever. It is what it is. So, oh, wow. Did you hear that thunder? Oof. Oh, man. Hope Gizmo's okay. Ay. Anyways, all right. Yeah, so I got to keep an eye out because I got... we got some things hanging out there. Man, the rain came early today. I'm not expecting it to be raining anytime soon. Yeah, because we got some things hanging on the clothesline out there, getting dry. Some laundry or what have you. So I know too much information. Bruh. Anyways, so what was I saying? Where was I? So. Yeah, so the reality is that, there is no real right way or wrong way, you know what I mean? Like, the reality is that, there are many ways in which one can move out here. There are many options for many people, no matter what your situation is. And, the reality is that, are you going to be a good addition to Mexican society? And if you can answer that, yes, then you got nothing to worry about. Everything else is arbitrary, all right? And it's as simple as that. So, for me, it was very easy, to not only integrate, but, again, now, after living out here over 7 years, I could never imagine, having to go back to the USA. I mean, I don't even want to imagine, but anyways, but going back to the USA and living in the USA and having that life again, the life that many of you guys have. And especially these days. Again, I remember when I first moved out here over 7 years ago, everybody was calling me crazy. And the only people that were living out here were people that were, in a worse situation than me, when I first originally moved out here. And everybody else was like, the people that had some money, the retirement, living that life out here. Certain, people in high society, or, well, the way I like to see it is, let's say it is that, people that wished or that couldn't be a higher society in the USA, and so they come out here to be more of the high society or whatever it is, right? But as the years have gone on, well, Mexico's gotten more expensive for you guys, more than anything else. And some of you guys don't want to pay that price because, well, you're not really coming out here for freedom, or you're not coming out here for quality of life. Some people were just coming out here to save a few bucks. And so, a lot of other individuals out there, expats and foreigners, Americans, Canadians that have been living here for over 7 years, a lot of them resent people like me and resent people like you that are coming out here with only a few bucks left to your name, and you're really here to, again, integrate into society. You're not integrating into, the expat high society, but no, you're here to integrate into, regular everyday Mexican life and stuff like that. Hold on a second, guys. Yeah, sorry about that. It's just here. It's windy, and yeah. Anyways, all right. Well, whatever. We'll figure it out. Hopefully it doesn't rain hopefully I can finish the live stream before it rains. So yeah, no, I love the rainy season too, Adrian, and yeah, so far Starlink is working great. So no problems there. But anyways, as I was saying, so that's the thing. A lot of people that have been here, the lifers, a lot of people that came out here many years ago, they resent, again, people like me, people like you guys, simply because you're lower society. You're out here coming as an immigrant. You're out here, with a different kind of state of mind when it comes to living and integrating into Mexico. And so, there's many aspects to this. And so I think that there's just a big disconnection when it comes to a lot of these things. Again, the haves and the have-nots. I think that the haves, they a lot of times, they try to, exclude others, the have-nots from their life or their thing. And so, a lot of people, they basically, resent the fact that, a lot of, what is it like, that, how do I say this? Like the same thing that happens here, that happens in the USA, but the thing of, whatchamacallit, the wealth gap, I think, or the society gap type of thing. That's like a real thing, not just with Mexicans, but with us as well. And so, you see a lot of that as well. I mean, there's a reason why I do the videos that I do. And I show you the part of Mexico that others don't. It's because, well, I'm not part of that other society. It's funny because, look, last week, this Sunday, remember, or a couple days ago, whatever, I forgot when I posted the video, but the video that I posted with my friend Matt, Matt, came out here and, that guy has money. You guys saw it in the video. He comes, from, he worked very hard, to get that money. All right. But long story short, he's not there, trying to hang out with the high society of out here. It's just he isn't. He's integrated with the Mexican people. Maybe Mexican high society or Mexican, whatever is. Maybe he's integrated with that a little bit more. But other than that, I mean, there's a reason why we're friends, why we get along. I have plenty of friends out here that got plenty of money, but they're not involved in these, certain aspects of like, what is it, like the high society life out here, and there's a lot of people out there that, again, they come out here with, again, just a few bucks to their name per se, and they want to be living that high life, and again, many years ago, you could have done that, and not so much these days, because again, Mexico is getting more expensive. Mainly for you. It's for everybody. Obviously, inflation, all these things are a real thing and they're happening all over the world. By the way, that's the same kind of weather we're having out there right now. It's just not raining quite yet. But that's what's going out there. This was filmed in August of like 2018 or something like that. So yeah. FYI. Mason Lifestyle says, Jose, can you briefly address the RNE workaround? Well, the RNE program has been suspended since March. And as of yet, we still have not heard any word as to when they're going to renew the RNE program. Again, I have plenty of other channels that are basically saying, oh, that guy is saying fake news because, why is he saying that it's going to get renewed or we're going to have another RNE program when he doesn't know anything about it? Again, I did a video talking extensively about that and how that RNE program is something that's been around for decades, all right? But long story short, as of now, it's not a thing yet, okay? But hopefully by next year, they're gonna bring it back. Again, my sources, all right? I don't wanna get too detailed, all right? I don't wanna reveal too much, all right? But look, long story short, my sources, all right, are basically reporting back to me, and they're telling me that, yeah, at some point it's gonna come back, whether it's at the end of this year or next year. Look, my sources wanted to come back as soon as possible, okay? My Mexican sources, but look, I'm gonna be 100%. I don't think it's gonna come back until at least the earliest next year, okay? So that's where the RNE program is right now. There's no real RNE program, all right? Yet. But anyways, if you want to know more about what you can do to get your residency, besides, financial solvency, look, just go look. In fact, we'll do it real quick together. All right, hold on a second. So I can show you how you can find it yourself. Okay. So you're going to go to my website. My YouTube page or my website, but we'll just go to my YouTube page. One second. Okay. Oh, no, that's not what I wanted to do. Sorry. Okay, so you go to my YouTube page, and on my YouTube page, you right up there, you see where the little search icon is there? You just put residency. Okay. And you're going to get a bunch of videos on residency. So right there, how to get Mexican residency without financial requirements, okay? And this is, again, not the R&E program, but this is how I did, how others have done it, okay? But that's one way, okay? Or, again, how to wait, for the R&E program to come on board again, okay? So you can watch that video, or you can watch this one right here, a complete list. This is one I would recommend. In fact, I'm going to link it for you guys, okay? So a complete list of all your residency options. I chose getting married. That was the easiest one for me. Okay. So, but there's many options. Okay. Another thing you can do is, again, you go to my website. It's full of tons of free, useful information. Again, you got my videos there, all my stuff. But then on top of that, you see moving to Mexico general information. You can click there. Okay, and right there is like, look, I got a video on how to find rentals, tips on how to find rentals, how to find jobs, how to work, for those of you guys out there, that need that. Not everybody's a digital nomad, or not everybody has a digital nomad job when they move out here. Top 10, 20 questions I get asked all the time. A banking option for those that might not be able to get a bank right away. How to get an apostille, whatever. That's a paperwork that you might need. Let's say that you're going to get residency through marriage or whatever. You're going to need to get that. And so on and so forth. Okay, the residency videos that I was talking about. Everything you need to know about renting. And then, again, a list of digital nomad jobs. Learn Spanish for free. It's just a link to Duolingo, whatever. Anyways, but again, right here, I got it all the way at the top, right above my head, all the way at the top. You see digital nomad jobs. You can click there, or the thing that I clicked, and right there, look, tons of jobs. Okay, so I get it all for free. None of you guys are paying me for any of this stuff, all right? So, just FYI, I provide everything for free, which is also why I got a lot of other YouTubers out there that don't like me, because, they say, oh, you got to do it the right way. It's like, well, what do you mean? You know what I mean? What do you mean? What is that? What does that mean? So I give you all the tools. Because a lot of people don't have $500, $1,000 to spend on whatever it is that they're selling out there in order for you to move to Mexico. Again, a lot of you guys are in a similar position as I was when I moved out here. All you had was a few bucks left in your pocket, a hope and a prayer and survival skills, and that's it. You know what I mean? The one thing that I would highly recommend is to learn Spanish. Again, the less resources you have, the more you're going to need that Spanish. All right? The more resources you have, the more money, the more resources, whatever, the less you kind of need to know Spanish. All right? But just FYI, all right? It's something that, I highly recommend, you learn before you come out here. But as I was saying, I interview all kinds of people. Oh yeah, what I was saying is that, like, when I put, Matt's interview up the other day, I got a lot of hate on that video. A lot of people like, were basically calling me out saying, oh, so you're gonna now start talking about rich people and how to move out here, when you got all these resources and rich. And it's like, all my videos are talking about, living in the pueblo, talking to Mexicans, living daily life with the Mexicans out here. Look at the video I'm showing you right now. There's a big no-no, in the YouTube community out there, giving you all this knowledge and information I'm doing. So, but again, I just post one video with one of my friends that has a few bucks, and all of a sudden, I'm public enemy number one, which again, I'm used to. I'm like Scarface, in the sense of like, I'm the bad guy. You want to make me the bad guy? I'm the bad guy. You know what I mean? I love that scene in Scarface. When I don't know if you guys remember when he was, drunk and high, at the restaurant towards the end of the movie, and he had that rant, basically talking about the bad guy. He's like, oh, all you guys that you look at me like I'm the bad guy, but you know what? You guys are the bad guys. You guys are the worst guys. It's just that I don't hide it. You guys hide it. You guys hide, how bad you guys are. And that's the way I look at it too. Again, I'm not, sugarcoating anything. I'm not trying to be, I'm not trying to tell you guys I'm Mother Teresa, or any of that crap. Okay. I'm not. All right. I got my own problems. I got my own thing. Again, if you want to know more, you can check out Jose Unleashed. Okay, I go into detail, not- anyways, so I know that picture's hilarious. I know. Anyways, but I go into details, you know what I mean, into a lot of my things in my life, whatever. All I'm saying is that I'm not trying to hide who I am. A lot of people are trying to hide who they are and hide behind this fake veil of oh, I am better than you, I am better than everyone else, and so on and so forth. And those are the things that I dislike. Okay, because again, just going back to, like, again, when I keep hearing you got to move to Mexico the right way, it's like, again, what do you mean? You know what I mean? Like, oh, you can only move to Mexico if you have, certain resources, or you have a certain mindset, or a certain thing. You're of a certain group, of a certain, you're gonna, what is it? Follow all the laws and all of this and all that. It's like, really? So that's the thing. You know what I mean? Like, to me, it's like it's a lot more complicated than that. And this is why I do these videos, because it's not black and white. It's multicolored. Have you guys even been to Mexico? You can see all the colors everywhere. Well, that's how society is. There's no one way to skin a cat. There's more than one way to cut an onion, so on and so forth. And so I come from that kind of mindset and that kind of world and that kind of life. And so out here, I fit like a glove in that sense, because, well, the reality is that that's how most of Mexicans and how most of Mexican society rolls on a daily basis. It's just the truth. So that's why for some people it's very easy to move out here and to basically integrate into society and culture, and for others very difficult, extremely difficult, and they get so upset with the fact that they can't just call 911 at any moment's time just because their neighbor's making too much noise, so that kind of stuff. It's all things like that. So anyway, shout out to everyone out there in the chat. But anyways, yeah, look, go to my website. Again, my website is even more useful information. Okay, my YouTube page as well. Please, whatever it is you want to type in there. Let's say jobs. Whatever it is. There's many things. Okay. Starting a business, whatever. Right. So please, go on ahead and check out, my, but anyways, go check out the playlist as well. In the playlist, I do, I got more, I try to organize all my videos as much as possible. Everything from the real estate tours to when I go and take adventures, to when I do interviews, because I got tons of interviews, that I've done throughout the years. So look down here, you see, all the way to my left, right, whatever. You guys can see all these interviews. Look at all these interviews I've done. All right, hold on a second. So again, many interviews, as you guys can see from the playlist. Hey guys, how's it going? That's when I interviewed Dave, one of my first interviews, and so on and so forth. All right, so look, I even interviewed my Mexican barber. Hey guys, so all right, so yeah, here's what should I call it? But anyways, yeah, so like I said, just check out these videos. I've interviewed all kinds of people. I even interviewed Jesus. Shout out to him. Hey guys, how's it going? And welcome back to whatever. Anyways, at the thumbnail you get to see it. You get to see the picture better. But anyways, all right. Enough. I'm cracking myself up here. All right, what was I? Let's get back to all right. Let me see. I'm gonna read a few comments here. We got Daryl Strawman says, okay. I see you guys are chatting with each other. Mason Lifestyle says, yeah, the Matt interview has to be one of the best current overview of Progresso Media with amazing insights. Oh, awesome. So happy. Yes, so many of you guys really, really enjoyed that video, and I'm glad that you did. And by the way, Matt's going to be coming back on the show. To do more videos. We're going to be doing more things. He's very, very knowledgeable, very helpful, and he loves to make videos just like I do. So it's great to have him on board and to finally start making videos with him and all that good stuff. And I'm glad you enjoyed that. Oh, awesome. Yeah, so I got many friends named Dave. So I don't know if it was Dave and Dora or Dave Rogers or whoever it was, but yes, I'm glad that you guys have enjoyed those videos. Shout out to Rick, shout out to Mason, shout out to everyone. Mason's Lifestyle says, but in the meantime, is it best to just get there and stay there on an expired visa put as much as you can, like proof of rental, sustainable. I mean, look, I go into details into those videos, okay? And the thing is that, you have to make executive decisions on what you want to do, and so on and so forth. Because again, when I came out here, there was no R&E program. There was no way to me get my residency through financial solvency. There was nothing of that kind. I just came out here with a hope and a prayer, and that's it. And I knew, I knew I was gonna figure it out all on the way there, and I did. All right, like I said, I married my amazing sweetheart, my beautiful wife there. Who knows? That might be your option. You know what I mean? There's many options. There's not. You might be able to get a job out here. You might be able to just get it that way. There's many ways you can get residency. There's many options. So you gotta figure out what's best for you. You might just overstay your visa and then hope and pray that eventually the R&E program comes back online, in a timely fashion, and then you're able to get it that way. I mean, there's many options. So okay, that Dave. All right, so shout out to Dave. Yeah, Dave comes out in many videos, as you guys already know. When we do charity work, he's a big contributor, to that. So again, look, Dave, he's retired. His wife is not retired. She still works as a digital nomad. She's in her 50s or whatever. They're out here on a, simple income, just basic, he just has his basic retirement, whatever. They got their residency through the R&E program when it was available. But long story short, he, a lot of the charity work and a lot of things that he does, he just does out of the kindness of his heart, trying to just, again, something to do, while he's out here retired and, just trying to find things to do. But it's not like, he has a lot of resources or he's rich or anything like that. Again, everybody is out here for different reasons. Everybody has a different life. You all have a different story. We all are out here for different reasons, and so on and so forth. Again, when we were talking to Matt, I honestly, again, before I knew Matt, I thought he was one of those guys that, would, live out here part of the year, live over there the other half of the year, all this stuff. But then when I talked to him, as I knew him, obviously he told you guys in the interview, but, as I got to know him, I realized very quickly, oh, wait a minute, this guy's moving out here because he wants to live out here. He lived in Florida. He loved it out there as well. Obviously, he's not living in Florida for obvious reasons, many reasons. And, he came out here because he just wanted a better life. Not that he couldn't afford the same amazing life in Florida. It wasn't about that. It was about all these other reasons as to why he came out here. Again, a lot of people will look at someone like him and be like, oh, he's not moving out here for the right reasons. Again, what is the right reason? What is the right way of moving to a place or whatever it is? And so not everybody has the same resources, but why is the door open for some people and not for others? What is that elitism? I don't play that. You know what I mean? I'm not into that. So, to me, a lot of people just call me the poor man's nomad capitalist. You remember that guy? He's still out there making videos. Shout out to the nomad capitalist. But, a lot of people just call me the poor man's nomad capitalist. I'm just out here, trying to show you guys, the options you have, the lifestyle you can have, how things are out here. And some people, again, they reach out to me and they say, hey, Jose, thank you so much for your videos, because watching your videos, I realized I don't want to move to Mexico. You saved me a lot of headache, a lot of money, a lot of this. Because a lot of YouTube channels out there, all they do is they're trying to sell you on Mexico, but they're not really selling you on Mexico. They're just trying to sell you on, their services, how they can make money off of you, and yada, yada, yada. I'm not like that at all. Again, how do I make my money? By making good videos. The real way that I make my money is, again, through advertising. So when you guys are watching videos and you guys watch an advertising, that's it. That's really how I make like 90% of my money. The other money I get is like, again, when I get someone to reach out to me that they want to have a consultation, whether they want to meet me in person like this person does, or someone, wants to, just do a video call, like a Google meeting or a Zoom call or whatever, there's, that's another way I supplement my money. But the reality is that I just came out here because I wanted to live a better life. That's it. It's as simple as that. It was very, very simple. It wasn't really that complicated. And, I'm so glad that I moved out here. I'm so glad that I live out here. Again, when I first came out here, a lot of people just thought it was crazy. Why are you moving to Mexico, especially with nothing? You know what I mean? Oh, just a hope and a prayer. What are you, crazy? You know what I mean? Like, why not just stay in the USA and just keep giving this a shot? The greatest country in the world. But like I said, once I got to Mexico, I realized, oh no, wait a minute, this is the place to be. Nothing that the things that I've done here in Mexico, I would not have been able to do or accomplish in the USA. I've accomplished a lot more, and I've built a stronger foundation here in Mexico in the 7 years that I've been here than the 30 plus years that I was in the USA. I mean, that's kind of nuts, right? Because again, I've been here a little over 7 years, so that means that I came out here when I was 36 years old, give or take. And I've been able to accomplish a lot more here and have a better, more stable life out here and a higher quality of life out here than I ever did in the USA. So when I first moved out here, it was just a crazy thought. As when COVID and stuff like that happened, I wasn't that crazy. Now, fast forward 7 years later, I'm like a pioneer, you know what I mean? I'm like a freaking idiot savant or whatever, So it is what it is. And so that's why it just bugs me so much and it rubs me the wrong way. It, it grinds my gears when I see so many people out there, just basically pushing a certain narrative that only certain people are wanted out here, or certain people can move out here, or moving the right way, or whatever it is, or again, suggesting that I did it the wrong way, that every other way that is not the way that certain people are saying is the wrong way. Is that what you're saying? What do you mean by that? That's what I'm like, what do you mean the right way? You know what I mean? What exactly are you talking about? So again, going back to that, like I was saying earlier, the right way to me, in my opinion, is just basically why are the real reason you're moving out here. Are you really moving out here just to save a few bucks and that's it? Or to get away from the current president, whether it's Biden or Trump or whoever the hell it is? Or are you moving out here because you just know that no matter who's president, no matter what the situation in the USA is, it's not going to get any better, and that you just want a higher quality of life? You want to disconnect from that craziness over there, and you just want to enjoy your life, and live a really good life, something that you probably lost in the USA or never had in the USA or Canada or whatever, all right? And that's it. I'm just trying to give you guys a little light at the end of the tunnel. All right, guys, give me 1 second because I think it is about to start raining. So give me 1 second. All right, I'm gonna leave you guys here with Lambo, and let me just get the laundry area. I'll be 30 seconds. Okay, you guys can time me and then tell me how much I went over. We're back. Sorry about that. My apologies. Yeah, it's getting really windy, and I don't know if it's going to start raining anytime soon or not, but it's got to avoid a disaster. We're getting all the laundry wet, but anyways, I think, yeah, wow, we've already gone over an hour here. So let me go on ahead and take some questions. If you guys have any questions or something you want me to touch on, real quick, let me know before, so we can start wrapping this up, because we got another live stream to get to once we're done here. Let's not forget that. So anyway, shout out to everyone out there. And again, thank you guys so much for hanging out with me today and all that good stuff. And but yeah, like I said, I'm gonna be taking some questions. Let's get into it. Oh, look at that. Adrian De La Torre says that was approximately 94 seconds. All right, not bad, not bad. I only, I said 30 seconds, right? That wasn't bad. That was pretty quick. But yeah, it's like dark. It's getting dark out there very quickly, So it's like, man, it's about to pour. So, hey, hold on. It's so windy. It keeps opening the doors. Sorry about that. My apologies. Okay, so that's right. So yeah, I mean, the thing is, it's like, to me, like what I like to talk about a lot is like the mindset. You know what I mean? Like, do you have the right mindset or the right reasons, for moving out here? Again, it's only going to be a detriment to you if you're not moving out here for the right reasons. But as to moving here the right way, again, what does that mean per se? You know what I mean? The right way to certain individuals, because that's really all it means. So. Ocean Soul says, in Mexico, can one own chickens right in town? Yes, you can. Technically, yes, you can. I have a few neighbors that have chickens, or chickens and roosters, So, yes, you can. So, let me see. How would you rate the quality of life in Mexico or the USA? It's amazing out here. It's like not even, you can't even compare. Quality of life in Mexico on a scale of 1 to 10 is a 10, a 9. I would say a 9. It's not perfect, okay? So I would say quality of life out here is like around a 9, maybe 8.5, whatever. Quality of life in the USA, for most people, for the average Joe these days, it's like a 2, if we're lucky, So, yeah, I mean, you can't compare. So. Let me see. I'm taking some questions now. All right. So this is why I'm just reading what you guys have in the comments there, in the chat. Darnell says, yeah, sorry. I'm getting a little older, man. Like my eyesight, is I gotta get new glasses too. Anyways, Darnell says, Jose, thanks for all your videos. I've learned a lot because of you. Keep up doing what you're doing. Never mind all the haters. Oh, yeah, thank you. I thank you for the kind words. I really appreciate that. But again, I love haters, man. I love the trolls. I love all that stuff. Again, look, I'm sure you've heard this before. Some of you guys, a lot of you guys have heard this before. If you don't have any haters, you're not doing it right. That's it. You're not, so that's, you're not doing anything at all. So to me, it's like, yeah, I welcome the haters. I welcome all that. I'm not really that worried at all. Are you kidding me? So, Big Al says, Jose, you put us in touch with the right people to get our paperwork started. Thanks, bro. Oh, anytime, Big Al. Glad I could help. Appreciate that. Darnell says USA is -2. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, because to me, the quality of life, it just goes with everything. And so, like, in the USA, it's like, no matter what, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, even if you're doing good. Look, man, I got family, I got friends that are still living in the USA. And, some of them have high income. Some of them are doing good in certain aspects or whatever. But it's just not the same. I mean, you can't even compare to the way that I'm living my life and the way that people live their lives out here. Just a typical Mexican and all that stuff, and the way that the culture is and all these things. As to what it is in the USA. It's just completely different. Cannot even compare one with the other. So, to me, yeah, no. I mean, look, a great example is Matt. Again, Matt has the ability to live in the USA and live it large. Not have to worry about anything. He has all the money, resources, all this stuff, and yet he chooses to live in Mexico. The digital, the nomad capitalist. Again, if you guys follow that channel, Nomad Capitalist, I mean, fully well. I mean, he does what I do, but he does it for high income earners. In fact, he provides services, but again, it's like, you gotta be making 7 figures or more for him to even, answer your email. Why is that? Why are so many high income earners or high income people looking to get out of the USA as well? Because it's like, it doesn't matter. Like, it's not, you can't. The USA has gone downhill so much these days that you know, it's just, it doesn't matter what your income is or what your lifestyle is or whatever. It's just not, you can find better out there. Again, the more resources, the more money, the more everything you have, well, obviously you're going to be able to have access to many more things outside of the country. But even if you're at the lowest end of this ladder, or the lowest end of the spectrum, you know, the lowest end of the, you know, economic chain here, ladder, whatever, it's even better. It's even more amazing. It's even, you know. So, but yeah, it's just the way it is. So shout out to, you know, everyone out there. So, oh, thank you, Mason. Appreciate that. Anyway, so yeah, I'm just, but yeah, that's the thing. You know, that's the way. That's the one thing I noticed. You know, over the years as I've been here, you know, there's all kinds of people that are looking to leave the USA. And the thing is that, again, going back to like the right way to move to Mexico, again, the right way means it's like, yeah, you have to be a high income earner in order to move out here the right way. So what about everybody else? Most of us are not high income earners. Most of us are just regular old Joes just trying to get by. You know, not paycheck to paycheck, you know, direct deposit to direct deposit, right? Whatever. Anyways, but the point is that, like, I mean, what? So that means that you can't move to Mexico? You cannot have a better life? That you're stuck in your crappy situation? No, that doesn't mean that at all. You know what I mean? In fact, you know, the term immigrant, you know, really is based more on, you know, the lower income, you know, level. The thing is, it's like, you know, for some people that move out here, you know, they come from the USA and they might be, you know, lower income, you know, on the lower economic scale, you know, lower on the economic scale, but yet the way that they live their life and the way that they have, you know, what is it, you know, the way that they live their life or whatever it is more in tune to, like, you know, what is it, like the high income earners. You know, again, that's why so many people are, you know, what is it? Riddled with debt. Riddled with debt, you know, in the USA. And so, you know, a lot of them come out here and they don't have access to that debt, and they got to do what every other Mexican does, which is you got to work and you got to pay in cash and you got to, you know, that's it. You know what I mean? You got to just deal with it that way. And a lot of people just, they can't deal with that because they need all these luxuries and all these, you know, comforts that a lot of Mexicans just don't have, or just don't, you know, they would rather, you know, even a middle income to high income Mexican, you know, would rather, you know, just eat here where you're looking at right there with the people, as long as they, you know, that allows them to save money so that then they can really take a nice vacation with their family in the summer. You know, something like a baseball game, you know, or other events out here. You know, for example, the zoo is free. When you go to a lot of parks, they're free. They're always, in fact, the 99% of the parks in Mexico are free. The baseball game, I mean, we got like amazing seats. That was a playoff game. Okay, like those. This is like the major leagues of Mexico. Okay, and so that was like a playoff game. I think we were right before they went to the World Series. Okay, and you look at me. Look at the seats that I got. You know, I'm there in like amazing. You know, what is it like? It was during COVID. You know, everybody there, you know, doing their thing, whatever it is. But look, long story short, it was only a few bucks, and I got to sit right there by third base. Again, anyone that follows baseball, you know, anyways, they're really prime seats. Amazing seats, okay? And yeah, long story short, you know what I mean, it's you have more people have access to many more things. Look, that's a free concert, you know, that they were just having there in the middle of town. I forgot what we were celebrating there, but celebrating something, you know what I mean? But whatever. Oh, the Noche Blanca, you know, that's just like an art festival that they have here in Merida like a couple times a year, okay? And so on and so forth. So, I mean, you know, it's just so many more things, so much more access. Look at that right there. You can get your snacks there for a few pesos, a few bucks. You know, in the USA, any kind of event like that, and they're price gouging you. You know, they're charging you an arm and a leg, okay, in order to get, you know, just a few snacks for your family. You know, where they're, you know, even the poorest of poor families, you know, they can, you know, get snacks for all the kids and walk around and enjoy and do all kinds of everything. It's just a different world out there. So anyway, so yeah, it is what it is. But anyways, I think I'm gonna wrap it up because it's starting to rain, you know, before I lose signal here. I gotta get ready for the other live stream. Again, if you guys enjoyed hanging out with me today and you guys want to hang out with me a little bit longer, please join me on my other channel, Jose Unleashed. All right. Yeah, it's already starting to rain hard. I hope I don't lose you guys. Anyways, join me on Jose Unleashed. Okay, we're gonna go. Oh, sorry, I didn't. Okay, I'm gonna go live over there in about 30 minutes, give or take, or yeah, 30 minutes to 45 minutes or whatever. We're gonna go live over there, and you know, today we're gonna be talking about. I got great genes. I got the best genes. Literally, you know, I got really, really good genes. You guys can see there, you know. So, anyways, join me over there for more hilarity, more fun. It says we're gonna go live in an hour, but we're gonna see if we can cut that, you know, to shorter. All depending on the rain and making sure I got a internet signal here. Again, right now it's already pouring. Seems like we're still, you know, we're still able to beam, you know, our signal up to the satellite, and so we're good to go. But long story short, guys, hope to see you guys there. Hope that you guys join me over there. We're going to be talking about a lot of cool stuff, a lot of fun stuff. It's never what it seems. I know a lot of you guys, you know, you might get turned off by some of the topics or turned off by some of the titles or whatever, but it's never what it seems. You know, some of you guys are like, think that I'm on the right or on the left. I'm on nowhere. I'm nowhere. I'm a nowhere man. All right. I'm politically homeless. All right. I'm not. I follow baseball and football. Okay, that's what I follow. That's my, you know, my passion. Okay, you know, I'll watch some sports. If I'm gonna watch some entertainment, I'd rather watch some sports. Okay, or whatchamacallit, or something else. All right, but I'm not into politics anymore at this point. You know, if you guys haven't figured it out, I don't know what to say. You know, but anyways, I love all of you guys, no matter what you believe in or who you believe in or whatever it is. Okay, but anyways. That's another story for another day. But anyways, I would love to see you guys over there. I would love to hang out with you guys, you know, a little longer. As you guys already know, we go live there every single Thursday once I'm done here. And on this channel, I go live every single Thursday, no matter what. You know, again, you know, some sort of emergency, some sort of situation where I can't go live, I'll let you guys know ahead of time. But other than that, you know what I mean? We're here every single Thursday. We're over there every single Thursday. But on this channel, I'm here also every single, on Sunday. So on Sunday, I upload a video. So Sunday, you got your regular video. On Thursday, you got your live streams. And depending on the week and depending on how busy I am or not, I try to drop a video on Tuesday as well. So Sundays and Tuesdays, I upload videos, but it's always Sunday. Every Sunday, I got a video here. Okay, and every Thursday we're here live. Okay, and then Tuesdays are special, you know, whether I can produce something or not. I am a one-man show after all, a one-man band here. I don't have like a whole operation here. All right, so it is what it is. All right, we do what we can. All right, so with that said, it's time for me to head out of here because now it's really starting to pour and I can see the signals dropping. So I want to make sure I can at least say goodbye. So, and oh yeah, the link. Let me send you guys the link to my live stream. Sorry about that. Thank you, Luz Artiaga, which is appreciated. So I'll send you the link there. Okay, so I hope to see you guys there in about 30 minutes, give or take. All right, 45 minutes probably. All right, again, you know, hopefully when the storm passes. All right, so anyways, guys, I love you guys. I appreciate you guys. I'll see you guys here on Sunday. As you guys already know, I got an awesome video. We're going to be walking around, you know, for almost an hour, talking about very important things that no one's talking about. You know me. So hope to see you there. So again, I'll see you guys on Sunday, and I'll see you guys in 30-45 minutes, you know, depending on whether you want to, you know, join the train wreck over there. So anyways, love you guys, I appreciate you guys, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye guys, laters, peace.